Welcome. I would like to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. We recognize that there will be a noise when people log on to this webinar. Unfortunately, we cannot control that, so please bear with us. My name is Allison Costa, and I will be the moderator for our machine learning webinar. I am Clin Data Insights Marketing and Communications Specialist, and I am ecstatic you decided to join us today. This webinar is hosted by Clin Data Insight. We are a biometrics consulting firm based in the San Francisco Bay Area, specializing in biostatistics, statistical programming, CDISC implementation, and big data for life science and talent solutions. Today, we are discussing machine learning for biostatisticians and statistical programmers, presented by Kevin Lee. Just a little housekeeping before we get started. From now until the end of the webinar, all attendees will be placed on mute so that we can remain on track. If you have a question at any time, please submit it via the question box located at the top left corner of your webinar screen or the chat box at the lower left corner of your screen. Questions will be answered at the end of the presentation in the order received. In addition, this webinar will be recorded and later placed on our website. We will also be sending out the webinar link, so you're more than welcome to refer back there if you want to review any information Kevin has presented. We estimate the webinar will end in about 45 minutes, but if there are a great amount of questions, we can stay a little longer to get those answered. If we run out of time at the end of the hour, to be mindful of everyone's time, any remaining questions will be answered offline by Kevin, and the answers will be placed on our website along with the slides. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to Kevin. Our presenter today, Kevin Lee, is the Director of Data Science at Clin Data Insight. Kevin has been supporting data-driven technology for nearly 20 years and very active data-driven solution architecture, including CDISC standards data development, semantic data, metadata-driven programming, data analytics, big data, and machine learning. He is also a current member of the CDISC Data Standards team and the Fuse Data Visualization team. Kevin has presented more than 50 papers at various conferences. He earned an MS in Applied Statistics at Villanova University following a BS from the University of Pennsylvania. Kevin is a lifetime learner who loves to learn and share. Now I will be handing it over to Kevin.
Thanks, Allison. Can you hear me good, Allison?
Yep, sounds really good.
Okay, good. Good morning for those in the West Coast, and good afternoon for those attending in the East Coast. Welcome to our webinar on machine learning for statistical programmer and statisticians. We will start our webinar with a machine learning introductions, then talk about machine learning types such as supervised, unsupervised machine learning, and deep neural networks. We will finalize our webinar with a machine learning implementation in our daily lives and also pharma industry. Then we will talk about the questions and also discussions. Nowadays, time to time, people ask me, Kevin, do you know about the machine learning? And on many occasions, the funny thing is, they kind of expect me to know about machine learning. So I asked them back, why did you ask me about machine learning, and what make you think that I know about the machine learning? So typical answer to me is because I do a lot of programming and also knows about statistics and modeling background, and most importantly, working with the data all the time. Yes, it is true that I programmed either in SAS, R, or Python, and knows about statistics such as regression, feature exact test, survival analysis, and ANOVA, and deal with the data all the time, whether it's going to be data manipulations or data wrangling or data cleaning or data standardizations or data governance or even building database. So all those reasons that people think that I know about machine learning is pretty much about my job descriptions as a statistical programmer or statisticians. So as machine learning progress and it gets more popular, and I believe that more and more people will ask me or ask us, statistical programmer or statisticians, about the machine learning. So what is the machine learning? Machine learning is applications of artificial intelligence that provide the system, which is machine, to learn and improve automatically without being explicitly programmed. The key word here is without being explicit programmed. So let's talk about this part. So what is the big difference between explicit programs and also machine learning? Explicit program means that we provide the logic or reasons for the answer. For example, when we drive the age group, we use age variable to drive the category of the age group. For example, if the age is less than 65, we assign the age group is a 1. If it's a 65 to 69, we assign age group number 2. So as you see this code, we know that where the answer is coming from. However, in machine learning, on many occasions, machine does not use logic or reason to find the answer. They just know about age group, going through a lot of age data, and also using the algorithm they have. Well, we will talk more detail about this, but machine use the data and algorithm to find the answers. So how does machine learn? First, let's see how human learned. So this is a picture of a cat. When we see this, we know that it is a cat. But the question is, how do we know that it is a cat? Because we saw the cat picture before. We have seen similar picture of a cat. So now when we see it, we know that it is a cat. So basically, human learned from the experiences. In machine learning, machine learned very similar way human does. However, it learned through the data and also algorithms. So the way that machine learning works is that we put the data into machine, and then machine use algorithm such as hypothesis functions and also cost functions. So let's talk more about detail about machine learning's algorithm, since it is a little bit different from statistical analysis. So hypothesis function is actually the model for the data. Another one is representations of the data. Its example is y equal 2x plus 30. And then cost function is the one that measures how well hypothesis functions fit into data. So basically, it's a difference between actual data point and hypothesis data point. And gradient descent is the one, which is engine that minimize cost functions. So through gradient descent, machine is able to find the best hypothesis functions by minimizing the cost function using gradient descent. Let's look at the example. Now we have a certain data point, either x and y. Y is the answers. So machine actually picked a random slope let's say is h equal x. So as you see that, so now machine actually calculate the cost functions. Cost functions is basically difference between actual data point and hypothesis data point. So machine using this algorithm, there is an algorithm for that for the linear model. So we got the cost function is high at the slope equal 1 is about 2.333. 14 by divided 6. So we got pointers. Now, machine using another model, which is 2x. So this cost function for 2x is going to be 0 because it fits with this data. So the cost function here is going to be 0. So if you do a lot of the slope, the selecting slope, then eventually we're going to have a cost function going to be slope has something like this, such as when is a slope equal 0, we got 8.167, slope equal 1, 2.33, and slope equal 2 is 0, and slope is 3, 2.33, etc., etc. So optimum slope in this model is going to be 0. So machine actually figured that out by minimizing the cost function, and it actually eventually leads the best fitted model, which is hypothesis function is a 2x. So basically, machine find the best model using input data and cost functions. It starts as X plus 30 in this model, and then it actually select the better one by using that minimized cost functions. And you got the next model, and eventually you got the final model as a 2x plus 30. And then using this model, we are able to predict the next values. And with the more data, and we actually able to build a better model. That's why big data become very popular, and also big data drive the machine learning. More data means better models. We could explain the data point much better than previously. Since data drive the machine learning, data quality becomes very important. If you put garbage data, actually we get the garbage model, like garbage in and garbage out. So which is going to be useless to find the data pattern and predict the next outcomes. So just like what we do in clinical trial study, machine learning workflow spends a lot of time in data preparations. First of all, we have to find the problem to solve, whether it's going to be predicting housing prices or doing some classifications of the data patterns. And we have to find the problem to solve. That's the first step. And second step is data integrations, which means that we have to find the data to solve this problem, whether it's going to be outside data, whether it's going to be inside data, whether it's going to be data coming from the systems, or whether we actually collect this data using the survey or even clinical trial studies. There are some cases that there isn't any process or system set up to collect the data. In those cases, we have to actually set up the process or set up the system that can collect the data. And then we have to make sure the data is in good quality. So you have to clean the data and also transform the data the way that we could use in the machine learning. Nowadays, data scientists are using a lot of structured data, but also unstructured data, which means we have to actually convert unstructured data into structured data. And then we have to prepare input data preparations, such as trained data that is going to build the model, and also test data, which is going to validate the models. And then we have to select the machine learning algorithms, which is going to be best to solve this problem, whether it's going to be regressions or classifications or distant trees or random forest or artificial neural networks. And then using this trained data, we actually train the select model, and then we build that model. After those model is built and tested, we put those model into the production. And then using this production model, we could predict the next data point. There are actually two machine learning types. One is a supervised and another is unsupervised. And also there's artificial neural networks. Supervised machine learning is pretty much that the input data has been labeled, which means it has a correct answer. So we could validate or we could compare the predicted data with the actual data. And usually it has a specific purpose of this model. And then its type is classifications, regressions, support vector machine, and decision tree. Classification is pretty much about categorical target. Example could be yes or no, or 0 to 9, or mild, moderate, and severe. So it provides a category of the output. And then usually the logistic regression, support vector machine, and classification is the one that in the model they use for the classifications. In the right side of the figure, we could see that there are two types of the data, X and O. Using classifications machine learning algorithm, we could actually find the patterns. Above this line, it's going to be X. Below this line, it's going to be O. So for next data point, we get something on above this line, and it's going to be X. If any data point is going to be below this line, then it's going to be O. Before we go into Python code, I'd like to introduce Python in machine learning. And Python is the most popular programming language in machine learning. We're going to introduce two packages in our presentation. One is a scikit-learn. It is a simple and very efficient machine learning tool. It is open source. And you could do classification, regression, support vector machine, clustering, dimensional reduction, decision tree, and also random forest. The TensorFlow is the one they use for the most powerful artificial neural networks. And it is developed by Google and open source since November 2015. And it could solve the problem using that artificial neural network and convolutional neural network, which is a lot of time used for the image solving problems. And recurrent neural network is more like a translators and autoencoder, and reinforcement learning is the one that used by the driverless car. So the Python code for machine learning logistic regressions, first of all, we have to prepare the data, train data, and also test data. And then we're going to import machine learning algorithm. Right now, we're going to import into logistic regressions. And then we're going to select the model as logistic regressions. And then we train this model with the trained data. And then after we train this model, using this model predict the test data, and also we're going to validate this test data with the actual data as well too. Another type of the machine learning is supervised machine learning is regressions, and usually is a numeric target, which is continuous variables. And example is predicting house prices per square foot. And its type is linear regressions and polynomial regressions. In the right side of the figure, we notice there's a lot of data points in this line, and then it seems like kind of linear model. So machine is able to figure that out the best model using the linear regressions. The Python code for the machine learning regression is kind of similar way that the classifications. You also prepare the train and test data set, X underscore train and Y underscore trains, and then import that linear model algorithm, and then you select the linear model, linear regressions, and then we actually train this model using the trained data, X and Y, and we get the output data, and also we could validate with those data as well too. Another popular supervised machine learning algorithm is decision trees. It identifies various ways of splitting data set into branch-like segments. It could predict the condition for the depth, or sometimes it could use for the find the same information. And the SAS has some procedures such as HPS split. So you can use this SAS procedure to get some of the decision tree condition and the result as well too. Unsupervised machine learning is that input data is not labeled, which means input data do not have correct answers. Another time, this analysis using for exploratory analysis, and the most popular type is a clustering. Clustering means they assign the sum of the observation into the subset, which is a clusters. For example, in this graph, you see that there are 3 data points clustered together. Using the clustering, you could actually find this relevant information together, and then you could actually categorize that these are similar information. Another time, this clustering analysis could be used for kind of similar news in the newspaper, such as if you talk about clinical trial, then you could find the clinical trial data point as a cluster analysis. Artificial neural network is the most powerful machine learning algorithms. Actually, it is a game changer. And it works very much like a human brain, human neural networks. So let's see how human neural network works. And human neuron actually receive the neurotransmitter from outside, and then it processes information. It also sends another output neurotransmitter to the next neurons. And then human body actually has about 100 billion neurons in our human neural networks. Artificial neural network work very similar way. It actually get the input from outside, as you see the X1 to XR, and then it actually collect the data point together, and then it actually process using the activation function, and it send it out the output as a Y. As you see that this is a one data point, one neuron in the artificial neural networks. It received a lot of data points from other neurons and then send the output to the next neurons so you could process again. If you look at the simple artificial neural network architecture, it has an input layer, which is X, and it has an output layer, which is Y. And there are so-called hidden layers. Right now, it has 2 hidden layers, first hidden layer and the second hidden layers. As you see that there are about three features is an input layer, and it means about 3 different variables. And hidden layer, there are 2. First hidden layer is about 4 neurons, and second hidden layer is about 2 neurons. And then output as actually 2 output. If you put this in the Python code, it works something like this. We import the TensorFlow as a TF, and then we prepare the X and Y data set. As you see the previous example, we have a 4 neuron in hidden layer 1 and 2 in hidden layer 2, and also another 2 output as output layers. So we define these informations, and then we actually process the optimizers, and then you actually using the optimizer to train this TensorFlow neural networks. So by using the X trained data and also Y trained data. So what about the SAS in machine learning? Actually, SAS has the package, which is SAS visual data mining and machine learning package. It is outside of the SAS power, and I think it's something you need to buy separately. But it does linear regressions and logistic regression and support vector machine. And it also has a deep neural network, but I believe that it has a limited layers. It could do up to, I think, 4 or 5 hidden layers. So right now, SAS already have this package, but they're also adding more feature in their package. So now, how machine learning is being used in our daily lives? She is a personal assistant that communicates using speech synthesis. Actually, starting in iOS 10, Apple used Siri voices on deep learning, which is machine learning. The resulting voice are more natural, smoother, and also allow that student's personality to shine through these applications. Alexa was another one that using by Google, and you work kind of similar way as well too. And as you know that if you have an Amazon account or Netflix or Spotify, all the recommendation is done by machine learning using your history of that what you're watching, what you hear, so you could recommend the song that you might like. And a lot of customer services such as online chatting or call actually used by machine. And sometimes if you sound like not human, and sometimes actually it is not humans. In year 2011, IBM Watson beat 2 champions in Jeopardy. And last year, AlphaGo, developed by Google DeepMind, beat one of the best Go player in the world. Go is known as the most complex game in the world, so it was not believed that machine is able to beat it. But last year, AlphaGo, trained in deep neural network, actually beat the best Go player, which means that in many cases, certain machine learning will do better than human does. Well, whenever my friends ask me to explain about the machine learning, the best way to explain to is actually show about Terminator or Skynet. When I mention about those, they actually people actually get it. And also, it's kind of bad news, but also at the same time, many countries nowadays research and develop the weapon system based on artificial intelligence and machine learning. So some prominent and some popular AI experts, such as Elon Musk, warn that we need to govern machine learning and artificial intelligence development with the ethics and regulations so that it cannot be used in a harm way. So why that machine learning or AI is so popular nowadays? Actually, it could be very cost effective. It could automate a lot of work. It could enhance or replace human labors. And Andrew Ng, he's a co-founder of Coursera, and also he started Google Brain, and also he was a chief data scientist in Baidu, and he mentioned that pretty much anything that normal person could do or think in 1 second, we could now automate with the AI. So that means that a lot of things that the manual work could be replaced by AI and machine learning. As we described before, a lot of time machine learning could be more accurate than humans, and it could use a big data, a lot of information, so it could solve very complex business problems that human cannot solve previously. So now, a lot of pharma companies go into this market, such as GSK just signed about 40 million contract with Extensia, which is European AI company, to speed the drug discovery. They're aiming about 4th time and 4th cost about drug discovery by identifying the target for disease intervention to the molecule from 5 to 1 years. And Johnson & Johnson surgical robotic team also partnered with Google to leverage AI or machine learning to help surgeons to interpret and predicting what they see and also predict during the surgeries. Roche also partnered with the GH Healthcare to use machine learning to find novel targets for cancer therapy using cancer patient data. And Pfizer has been working with the IBM Watson for drug discovery. What Watson has been done is that he has accumulated data or documents from more than 25 million articles. I mean, if you compare with a human being, human only could consume about 200 articles per year, but this Watson is able to process big data and big documents in the research article, so it could find the information much faster and more profound information. Nobody's also the partner with IBM Watson, developing the cognitive solutions using real-time world data to gain better insight on expected outcomes, and also partner with the Coda Healthcare to aim to accelerate clinical development of new therapy for cancers. And Bayer also partnered with Google on clinical trial data analysis as well too. So as you see that it's a machine learning and also artificial intelligence is applied in a lot of pharma R&D, such as drug discovery and drug candidate selections and clinical IT system optimizations and medical recognitions and medical diagnosis, and also optimal site selection and recruitment in clinical trial and data anomaly detection. And also the big thing is nowadays is a personalized medicine, such as biomarker or genomic data. However, adoption of artificial intelligence or machine learning in pharma is slow. It's not as faster as other technology companies such as Google or Facebook. Mainly is because regulatory restrictions and also machine learning black box changes. What they mean is that sometimes machine is able to find the answer more accurately. However, it doesn't provide the logic and reason behind it. So the pharma need to build a machine learning model which is statistically or mathematically proven or validated to explain the final results. And there is a big investment in healthcare, and a lot of AI starting company is starting up aiming to the pharma industries. So what is going to be future in machine learning or artificial intelligence market? Right now, about year 2016, US market is about $300 million, and same as Europe market as well too. And it is projected to grow more than 40% annually. And then by year 2024, it will be about 10 billion market. And then, as you all know, that we are short in talent and technology and expertise. So for next couple of years, more and more people will ask us about machine learning because it will become more popular and more people want to know. And then biometric department, statistical programmer, and statistician actually have a background to know about machine learning. And because our background as a statistical programmer and statistician, sometimes they might expect us to know. So whether we know about machine learning or not, it will impact our pharma industry, and also it will impact our daily lives. The question is, do we want to lead these innovations? I really believe that we have a perfect opportunity for these innovations. If we think about it, only pharma industry has a biometric department. Other industries do not have a biometric department who know about statistics and programming, work with the data all the time. If biometric know about the machine learning, this innovation will be led by us. If it's not, it will be led by outsiders. So the question is that if somebody asks us about, do you know about machine learning? Do you want to lead about this exciting opportunity or the missed opportunities? Once again, thank you for attending this webinar. And if you have any questions about the machine learning or big data or any kind of data related questions, please email us, Kevin or consulting@cleandata.com. And we can also find other information in our Clean Data Insight website. You could also find us at LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter and WeChat. Alison, do you have any time for the questions?
Yep, we still have some time. Thank you so much, Kevin. We'll go ahead and take this time for questions. Just a reminder, be sure to type your questions into the question box on the top left-hand corner of your webinar screen, or you can place them in the chat box at the bottom of your screen. It looks like we have a few coming in. So we'll start with, can machine learning replace SDTM, ADAM, and TFL programming?
Actually, that's a very good question, and I actually gave a lot of thought about it because that's what I do. And the answer is no. It could probably replace, it could probably enhance some of the programming part, but it cannot be replaced about this programming because the main reason is I mentioned in the presentation, black box. Machine learning is able to tell probably more accurate answers, but a lot of time it cannot provide a reason how we got that answers. So in terms of regulatory perspective, FDA not gonna accept about some of the results that we got from the clinical trial study because we claim that our machine learning algorithm say so. We have to provide statistical or methodological reasons that how we got this some data point. So I don't think that STTM, ADAM, or TFL programming could be replaced by machine learning until somebody came up with some mathematical and also the statistical proven machine learning algorithms. But at this moment, it hasn't happened yet.
Okay. Next is how should I start learning about machine learning?
I recommend two approaches. One is understanding about concept, how machine learning works. As we explained or discussed in our presentation is that it uses certain algorithms such as hypothesis functions and cost functions and also gradient descent. That's, if you understand that concept, then that is a really good start. And the another one is that we probably need to learn new language, whether it's going to be SAS procedure, new SAS procedures, or whether it's going to be Python, whether it's going to be R. And because right now this industry, this machine learning community, going really, really fast. So there will be next language or there will be next procedures coming up. So we have to willing to follow up, and we have to really willing to learn about this new technology such as programming or new procedural new functions.
Okay, that sounds like a great start. Next, we have, do you see any application of ML in the field of statistical programming?
As I mentioned for that STTM, ADAM, and TFL programming, it's probably not going to replace it, but in terms of such as kind of annotation, STTM annotation case of form, you could actually use the machine learning because it doesn't require certain logic to annotate some of the STTM and ADAM. I mean, so annotation is annotates on case of forms. But STTM, ADAM, and TFL, you have a logic to get to some data point and also get to some data result analysis. So machine learning probably not going to apply theirs, but just finding right answers such as STTM annotation, finding good, correct metadata, we could apply machine learning for that one.
Okay. Where can we apply machine learning in our daily work?
Machine learning could be used in many aspects in our lives, such as you mentioned that street, or as I mentioned that recommendation by some systems, and also and something like that. And also in our industry, machine learning could be used for the drug discovery times. I'm not quite sure about drug development because it could be more about the rule-based programming, rule-based analysis. But in terms of drug discovery, because finding some compound and finding some drug candidate, you could use machine learning to shorten those timelines.
Next question is, should the training data be available at all times during prediction, or the system will assimilate the information provided in the training data and use it for prediction? If not, then where is the assimilated data stored?
As I mentioned that, actually that's a good question. So train data, when you have the data, when you prepare the data, usually we put aside trained data and also test data separately. The other time it's a 70 and 30% or 80 to 20%. It depends about the data. And then the trained data is basically the trained models. But sometimes the data has, you actually overfeed the model to the data. So your model only specific about the trained data. So that's why you have a test data to validate that information about how accurate that is. So trained data, you have to, when you have let's say you have about 100 data records, or maybe that, no, 100 is too small. Let's say about 1,000 data records, then you have to prepare trained data about 700 or 800. And then you also set aside test data for the test about the model that developed by the trained data.
Okay, next question. To learn the ML, which programming language is more preferable? Python, R, or SAS? Or I think those are examples, so they're just asking which one is.
Yeah, Python is the most popular language in the machine learning, and Python is the one that used by like almost everywhere. And if you're looking at about some of the database systems such as Spark or Hadoop, and also other database, Oracle, Python is the one that actually have a good connection to those database systems too. So Python is the most powerful and most widely used at this moment. So I recommend the Python is the one that you can use for the machine learning. But the SAS is developing the package. So we could probably wait for the SAS. SAS is usually good at about developing most user-friendly the package. So if SAS could catch up on Python, then we could also use a SAS as well too.
Next question. For someone wanting to learn more about big data, I often struggle to understand if big data corresponds to high dimensional data or relates to velocity and volume of data alone. Could you explain a little bit about that? Also, how Hadoop comes into question?
Yeah, big data is usually categorized 3 different ways. One is a big volume, and also big velocity, which means that how fast you're getting the data from outside, and also variety, how many data structure you're going to have in the big data. And then Hadoop is actually good in terms of data storage. And because Hadoop is very easy to scale, so having the big data in your system, Hadoop is the best way to store the data. Because Hadoop doesn't require data ETL process to ingest data in. So you could quickly put the data into Hadoop systems and then make those data available. Compared to kind of relational database system, you actually convert the data so that you could actually put it into the schema in the database system. But Hadoop is much easier to scale, and it is easier, it's actually less expensive, and then it actually could store the data faster. So Hadoop is the more recommended system in the big data storage solutions.
Right. How difficult will it be to get machine learning systems validated for use in pharma?
It is very difficult. Actually, SAS actually doing that at this moment, and because SAS is enterprise systems. However, Python and also the R or other machine learning package is open source, which means that nobody actually validated. Well, we could actually trust Google in terms of the 2 packages I introduced today, scikit-learn or TensorFlow. However, these are still open source. So it is not easy, especially when you talk about black box. And so there is some way we could probably develop the model that is more validated and proven by industry. However, machine learning is not more about proving, it is more about accuracy. So there's a different perspective. When you talk about statistics, we talk about p-value. In machine learning, we talk about accuracy, like 90% or 95%, 99% accuracy. So there's a different perspective in terms of statistics and also machine learning.
Okay. ML is based on big data, however, pharma data are limited compared to other fields. How do you see the future with ML in pharm?
I think there is a great opportunity in pharma. The main reason is that clinical trial data. As I mentioned before, that even though we apply machine learning and data preparation and data manipulation takes 80–90% of the time to prepare data. However, if you look at our clinical trial data, especially nowadays is doing by CDC data standards, it is we have a really clean and structured, easy to use, easy to understand data in the clinical trial data. If we use this clinical trial data into machine learning, we're gonna shorten a lot of data preparations and data manipulation time. So I believe that pharma should look at about clinical trial data as a machine learning input data.
Okay, does anyone else have any more questions to ask? It looks like we've covered all of the questions that have been sent our way. Kevin, is there anything else you wanted to cover before we wrapped up?
No, just wanna say that thank you for attending our webinar. And if you have any questions, then you could always find us either LinkedIn or Facebook or WeChat and Twitter. And also you could also send me emails too. So I look forward to hearing from you and hearing your opinions, and look forward to working with you guys as well.
Great. Thank you again, everyone. We appreciate you being here. Be sure to check us out on social media and subscribe to our newsletter to stay up to date with our company information and events. Thanks again for joining us today, and we will see you next time. Have a good day.
Thank you.